Breaking. An AFC powerhouse team just offered a $200 million blockbuster trade package to steal Shedeur Sanders out of Cleveland. And now Kevin Stefanski is in full-on panic mode. Front office phones are blowing up, agents are panicking, and Jimmy Haslam has been cornered into making the biggest decision of his career. If this deal goes through, it could change the entire AFC forever.
Since we're going this year, it would have been 8 years earlier, because 4 years ago they were here. So you play the other divisions every 4 years, and then they switch the home and away. So I don't even remember the game last.
Well, I don't know if this was the last one, but I remember it was notable because the Browns played poorly, and then Odell had the whole thing afterwards with the cleats, giving them to Tom Brady, and it was a whole story.
Oh, that era, So it was 19. It must have been 2019. So it was less than 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh well. Not a game at the top of my memory, and as I used on the NFL Roundtable this morning. A lot of these Browns-Patriots games are very noteworthy to me.
Yeah.
But that one wasn't.
Yeah,
Didn't
there
make
we go.
the list.
We're going to get into the game. I want to talk about the matchup and all that. I did want to start, Tony. So SI.com today published an article, 6 NFL teams that should be sellers at the trade deadline. They list the Browns.
A $200 million blockbuster trade package just hit the table. And Shedeur Sanders' name is at the center of an AFC bidding war that has Kevin Stefanski sweating bullets in Cleveland. The Browns' front office is in absolute chaos right now because the New York Jets just threw down the ultimate offer. Garrett Wilson, draft picks, and a king's ransom to rip Shedeur out of Ohio before he ever takes a single first-team snap.
I asked you, hey, if it was up to Kevin Stefanski, do you think that they would, if they got called for Shedeur Sanders, he would be down to trade him?
Yeah.
Do you like why do you think that there could be a difference in opinion on that there?
Well, first of all, I'm not under the lasso of truth at this moment.
You are not. I have no lasso.
Second of all, has the coach had any input on any of these quarterback decisions? It seems to me not. They've traded.
It seems like Dylan Gabriel. The Dylan Gabriel pick, Tony, seems like that was Kevin. I would say.
Yes, and that's like, all right, we'll give you this guy, but we're going to do this, this, and this, and it rolls off his back. So now, again, I think Kevin evaluates Dylan Gabriel a better quarterback at this moment. Mm-hmm. I don't think he has anything personal against Shedeur. I do believe that last preseason game against the Rams impacted their evaluation of Shedeur. I know Rizzo and others might blow it off as being a meaningless, with fourth stringers playing, but I think it made an impact on their evaluation of Shedeur's readiness. Okay. And once the season started, as we've been talking about and writing about and talking about, it's tough to develop a rookie quarterback on the bench when you're trying to develop one who's your starter. Yeah. So where's the progress been made to put them higher on the depth chart, other than they traded Flacco and there's an opening there.
But here's where it gets absolutely insane. While 92, the fan is throwing Shedeur's name around like he's some throwaway asset. The same organization that's been starving him of practice reps suddenly has to decide if they're willing to lose the most hyped quarterback prospect since his pops terrorized defenses.
Such an emphasis on protecting the ball after those first 4 games where the quarterback Flacco had 8 turnovers in 4 games. And there was such an emphasis on that I think when Gabriel went in, he was very conscious of protecting the ball. And protecting the ball means not taking chances downfield as much as anything. Yeah. And I think they're trying now to ease his mind that, hey, listen, we don't have Flacco here anymore. Shedeur's not getting first team reps. So go ahead and rip it. Be confident with your reads downfield. Don't be afraid to take some chance. That's why I think we'll see an effort to verticalize the passing game. Hey, he's had three passes over 20 yards, only 3 in 3 starts.
Yeah.
One
completions, completions.
Yeah. And Judy isn't among the receivers. So obviously they need to expand this passing game. And I think with Judkins, the success Judkins has enables them to take those play action shots that we're talking about.
This isn't just about a trade anymore. This is about whether Cleveland just fumbled their entire future for a wide receiver. And trust me, what the insiders are saying behind closed doors will blow your mind.
Period. When Judkins' future was in doubt, except for that, I thought Judkins was the absolute right pick for this team over Henderson. I'd have been happy with either of them. I said that many times prior to the draft, and I'm glad they got one of them. But Judkins, to me, really resembles Nick Chubb, running style. And Henderson's a little. The Patriots see him as kind of a third down back, at least at this point of his career, not the bell cow that Judkins is here. So I think I'm glad the way it worked out that Judkins is back and he's doing his thing. Want to see him go over 100 yards. Yes, I want to see that too on Sunday. All right, last one here, Tony. For the Browns to win this game, what do you think the most important thing is going to be? Is it they got to force 3 turnovers or they got to unlock the downfield passing game? Like, what's that one thing you're keen in on? Well, the Patriots have gone 4 games in a row without a quarterback turnover. I think Stevenson has a fumble in those 4 games, but that's they're +2 in turnovers, whereas they had 5 turnovers against Pittsburgh in their game against the Steelers. 5 offensive turnovers. All right, so protect the ball is one thing, but at the same time, we need to see Dillon Gabriel's.
Look, I'm going to be real with you right now because this situation in Cleveland has gone from bad to straight up disrespectful, and somebody needs to call it out. You know what's wild? When you Google Shedeur Sanders' name right now, the first thing that pops up isn't highlights, isn't his stats, isn't even the typical draft hype. Nah. It's trade rumors, exit strategies, and a front office that looks like they're playing chess while everyone else is watching them knock over their own pieces. Let me paint you the picture of what's really happening here, because the media's been dancing around it. But I'm going to give it to you straight. The Cleveland Browns are in full panic mode, and they're trying to hide it behind corporate speak and coach talk. You got Kevin Stefanski up there doing press conferences looking like he just got caught cheating on a test. And now the whole football world is watching this organization implode in real time. So here's where this whole mess started. After the Browns traded veteran quarterback Joe Flacco, Shedeur Sanders officially moved up to second string. Now, on paper, that sounds like progress, right? Young quarterback getting closer to the starting spot, learning the system, getting ready for his moment. But hold up, because that's where the story takes a dark turn that nobody saw coming. Kevin Stefanski comes out and drops a bomb that Shedeur Sanders hasn't received any first-team reps. Not a single one. Let that sink in for a second. Your second-string quarterback, the guy you drafted with all this hype, the son of a legendary player, isn't even getting looks with the ones. But wait, it gets worse. Offensive coordinator Tommy Rees comes out and basically co-signs that statement, double-stamping it like they're proud of keeping this kid buried on the depth chart. Now, I don't know about you, but that's looking weird as hell to me. Like, why would you draft a quarterback, move him to second string, and then publicly announce he's not getting any meaningful reps? That's not development. That's disrespect, packaged up in a Cleveland Browns press release. And this is where the trade rumors start heating up like a grease fire in a kitchen. Because while the Browns are out here treating Shedeur like he's invisible, other teams are watching this whole circus and licking their chops. Organizations around the league are seeing a talented young quarterback being completely wasted. And they're starting to make phone calls. Enter the New York Jets. And boy, oh boy, did they come with a proposal that has Cleveland's front office in emergency meetings. According to reports that surfaced on 92 The Fan in Cleveland, there's a blockbuster trade scenario on the table that would send Shedeur Sanders to the Jets in exchange for wide receiver Garrett Wilson, along with draft picks to sweeten the deal. Now let me break down why this is absolutely insane. Garrett Wilson is a stud, no question about it. Ohio State product, young receiver with Pro Bowl potential, exactly the type of weapon Dillon Gabriel needs if he's really the future in Cleveland. But here's the thing that has me scratching my head. You're willing to trade away a quarterback prospect for a wide receiver when your current quarterback situation is shakier than a house of cards in a wind tunnel? The hosts on 92. The Fan were going back and forth about this, and one of them straight up said he'd throw Shedeur Sanders in the trade to get Garrett Wilson. His reasoning? He trusts Wilson more than Shedeur to be good in this league over the next 3 to 5 years. Now listen, I respect everyone's opinion, but that take right there tells you everything you need to know about how some people in Cleveland are viewing Shedeur. But his co-host pushed back hard, and honestly, he was spitting facts. He said, you can't do it. You gotta see Shedeur play first before you just ship him out like he's a bag of practice jerseys. Because think about it. What if Shedeur turns into everything people say he could be? What if he's sitting on the Jets roster next year throwing dimes, and Cleveland is stuck wondering why they traded him for a receiver when they could have built something special? Here's what's really happening behind the scenes. And this is where you gotta follow the money like I always tell you. The Browns aren't just thinking about football right now. They're thinking about that new stadium, they're thinking about ticket sales, they're thinking about merchandise. And most importantly, they're thinking about leverage. Shedeur Sanders isn't just a quarterback to this organization. He's a brand. He's a walking billboard with a last name that sells jerseys and puts butts in seats. The Browns know that as long as they have Shedeur on the roster, they've got something valuable, even if they're not playing him. It's like owning a Ferrari and keeping it in the garage. Sure, you're not driving it, but everyone knows you got it. And that alone has value. That's why I don't think this trade is actually going to happen, even though it's making all the headlines right now. The Browns would have already pulled the trigger if they really wanted to move Shedeur. The November 4th trade deadline is coming up fast, and if Cleveland was serious about shipping him out, we would have seen more concrete movement by now. But here's where the plot thickens, and this is the part that has people really divided. Some folks are saying Shedeur needs to demand a trade, force his way out of Cleveland, and go somewhere that'll actually let him compete. Others are saying he needs to be patient, put his head down, keep grinding, and wait for his opportunity because Dillon Gabriel might not be the long-term answer everyone thinks he is. Me, personally, I think Shedeur should want out. Not because he's scared of competition, not because he's soft, but because the organization has shown him exactly who they are. When a team publicly announces you're not getting first-team reps while you're the second-string quarterback, they're telling you everything you need to know about where you stand. That's not development, that's burial. And let's keep it 100 here, because I know my audience, and I know y'all rock with Shedeur. This kid has been professional about everything. He hasn't complained publicly, hasn't thrown shade at the coaching staff, hasn't demanded anything. He's done everything right, and he's still getting treated like an afterthought. That's not his fault. That's organizational dysfunction at its finest. Now, the article that dropped mentions that there's no indication the Browns plan to move on from Dillon Gabriel anytime soon. They're committed to him as the starter, which is fine. Every team needs to pick their guy and roll with them. But if Gabriel is your guy, and you're not developing Shedeur, and you're not giving him reps, then what's the plan here? Are you just hoping he sits on the bench for 3 years and then magically becomes a franchise quarterback when his rookie contract is up? It doesn't make sense from any angle you look at it. It's bad for Shedeur's development, it's bad for team chemistry, and it's definitely bad for the Browns' future if Gabriel doesn't pan out and they've got a quarterback who hasn't played meaningful snaps in years trying to save the franchise. The Jets' proposal is interesting because it shows how other teams value Shedeur differently than Cleveland does. New York is in quarterback hell right now, and they know it. They've been cycling through signal callers like it's a revolving door, and none of them have stuck. Shedeur represents a chance to finally get a young quarterback with upside, develop him properly, and build around him for the future. And here's the kicker. The Jets would actually play him. That's the difference. Cleveland is content to keep Shedeur on ice while they figure out if Dillon Gabriel is the real deal. The Jets would throw him into the fire, let him compete, and give him every opportunity to win the job. That's the kind of situation a young quarterback dreams about. Not sitting on a bench in Cleveland watching from the sidelines while coaches tell reporters, "You're not even getting practice reps." Some people might say, I'm being too harsh on Cleveland, that I'm just a Shedeur stan who can't see the bigger picture. But let me ask you this. If Shedeur wasn't Deion Sanders' son, if he didn't have the spotlight following him everywhere he goes, would the Browns be treating him the same way? Or would they be more intentional about his development, more transparent about the plan, more willing to give him opportunities to prove himself? I think we all know the answer to that question, and it's not pretty. The Browns are trying to have it both ways. They want the buzz and the attention that comes with having Shedeur Sanders on the roster, but they don't want to actually invest in making him the quarterback of the future. That's coward behavior, plain and simple. And before anyone says, well, he's just a rookie, he needs to wait his turn, let me remind you of something. Patrick Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith for 1 year and used that time to learn and grow. But even during that year, he was getting reps. He was being integrated into the offense. He was being prepared to take over. That's what development looks like. What's happening in Cleveland isn't development. It's neglect. Now, here's where this story takes a turn that most people aren't talking about. And it's the part that actually has me thinking, maybe, just maybe, there's a method to Cleveland's madness. Hear me out on this one. Hear me out on this one. What if the Browns are playing 4D chess here? What if they're intentionally keeping Shedeur away from first-team reps, not because they don't value him, but because they're protecting him? Think about it. Cleveland's offensive line has been struggling. The play calling has been questionable at best, and Dillon Gabriel is out there taking hits behind a patchwork group of blockers who look like they're learning their assignments on the fly. If you're the Browns' front office, and you really believe Shedeur could be special, why would you throw him to the wolves right now? Why would you put him behind that offensive line with that game plan in that situation and risk destroying his confidence before he ever really gets started? Maybe, and I'm just spitballing here, they're waiting for the right moment. Maybe they're planning to use this offseason to rebuild the line, refine the offense, and then hand Shedeur the keys to a much better situation. That's the optimistic take. And I'll be honest with you, I want to believe it. I want to believe that Cleveland has a plan, that they're not just winging it, that there's actual thought going into how they're handling their young quarterback. But the pessimist in me, the guy who's watched teams mismanage talent for years, says that's probably giving them too much credit. Because here's the reality. The Browns have a history of quarterback dysfunction. They've cycled through more signal callers than most people can name, and very few of them have succeeded in that organization. So why would Shedeur be any different? What magical formula do they suddenly have that's going to turn him into a star when they couldn't do it for Baker Mayfield, couldn't do it for multiple other first-round picks, couldn't create any semblance of stability at the position? The Jets trade proposal, whether it's realistic or not, represents something bigger than just football logistics. It represents an opportunity for Shedeur to start fresh somewhere that might actually want him to succeed. And, yeah, I know the Jets have their own issues, but at least there's a clear path to playing time there. At least there's an organization desperate enough for quarterback help that they'd give him every chance to win the job. But let's talk about the elephant in the room that nobody wants to address directly. The narrative around Shedeur has always been complicated because of his father. Some people can't separate the son from the dad, can't evaluate Shedeur on his own merits without bringing up Deion's personality, Deion's coaching style, Deion's media presence. That's not fair to Shedeur, but it's the reality he's living in, and I wonder if some of that is playing into how Cleveland is handling this situation. Are they worried about the circus that comes with being associated with the Sanders family? Are they concerned about the media attention, the scrutiny, the pressure that comes with having Deion's son as your quarterback? Because if that's what's driving their decision-making, that's weak. You don't let external noise dictate how you develop your talent. Here's what I think is going to happen, and you can bookmark this for when the trade deadline passes. Cleveland is not trading Shedeur Sanders. They're going to keep him on the roster, continue to not give him meaningful reps, and use him as a chess piece for stadium negotiations and ticket sales. They'll trot him out for preseason games, maybe garbage time if Dillon Gabriel is struggling, but they won't actually commit to making him the guy. And Shedeur? He's going to continue being professional about it. He's going to keep his head down, keep working, and wait for his moment. Because that's what guys from his background do. They don't complain, they don't make excuses. They just work and trust that eventually the truth comes out on the field. But here's my message to Shedeur if he ever sees this. You don't owe Cleveland anything, bro. If the opportunity comes to go somewhere that'll actually invest in you, that'll give you real reps with real players, that'll treat you like the asset you are instead of a marketing tool, you should take it. Life's too short to waste years of your prime sitting on a bench for an organization that doesn't appreciate what they have. Now, I know some of y'all are going to say I'm being too emotional about this, that I'm letting my bias for Shedeur cloud my judgment. But let me ask you something. When has sitting and waiting ever been the right move for a talented player stuck in a bad situation? Can you name me one example where a quarterback just patiently waited his turn in an organization that clearly didn't value him, and it worked out great? The truth is, organizations reveal themselves through their actions, not their words. And Cleveland's actions are screaming that they don't know what they have in Shedeur Sanders. They're too busy playing politics, worrying about optics, and trying to justify the Dillon Gabriel pick to actually see the potential sitting right in front of them on the bench. So when 92, the fan talks about throwing Shedeur into a trade package like he's a throw-in player, like he's just some extra piece to make the money work, that tells you everything about how some people in that market view him. But here's the twist that has me fired up. Those same people who want to trade him away are going to be the first ones crying when he's balling out somewhere else, making them look foolish for giving up on him too early. And that's the thing about this whole situation that gets me heated. We've seen this movie before. Talented young player stuck in dysfunctional organization. Team doesn't know how to use him properly. They trade him away for pennies on the dollar. And then he becomes a star somewhere else, while the original team is left holding the bag, wondering what went wrong. Cleveland has a choice to make. And that November 4th trade deadline is coming faster than they think. They can either commit to Shedeur, give him real opportunities, integrate him into the offense, and see what they really have. Or they can ship him out, roll the dice on Dillon Gabriel being the answer, and hope they don't regret it for the next decade. Me, personally, I think Shedeur's going to be just fine no matter what happens. Whether he stays in Cleveland and eventually gets his shot, or whether he goes to New York or somewhere else and proves everyone wrong, this kid has got the talent and the mentality to succeed. The question isn't whether Shedeur can make it in the NFL. The question is whether Cleveland is smart enough to realize what they have before it's too late. So, what do you think? Should the Browns trade Shedeur to the Jets for Garrett Wilson and picks? Or should they hold on to him and actually give him a real chance to compete? Is Kevin Stefanski making the right call, keeping him away from first-team reps? Or is this just another example of Cleveland mismanaging quarterback talent? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I know y'all have strong opinions on this one. And look, if you made it this far, you're clearly invested in this story. Do me a favor and smash that subscribe button because, trust me, this Shedeur Sanders saga is far from over. Whether he's in Cleveland, New York, or somewhere else next season, we're going to be covering every twist and turn. Hit that bell so you don't miss a single update, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.